The Commanders are on to the New York Giants. It is officially Giants week, and I cannot stress enough how important it is that Washington shows well in this game. I'm not going to sit here and do sports talk radio yuckity yuck nonsense where I tell you it's a must win in week 2 for a rebuilding team. Not a thing. I'm not going to say if they don't win, then dot, 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 dot. But they've got to look a lot better in this game. There is just no excuse not to. In the second week of a regime, you get some of those jitters and nerves out. A lot of the players who were either rookies and or in a new home, right, in Washington, new scheme, first time playing with a bunch of teammates. I'm going to give you a mulligan against a playoff team a year ago in the Bucs that whooped up on you in every phase. But the Giants this past week were horrific. They were so bad at home that they were booed so loudly that a Vikings player said on the radio today that they legitimately felt bad for Daniel Jones in that offense. I heard on New York radio a couple days ago, I think it was Evan Roberts, who does the version of what we do in WFAN, said that Giants fans showed up at the stadium ready to boo. Like they just wanted to boo. Now, they got plenty of things to boo.
They got a great chance to.
But right off the bat, they went 3 and out, and the Boo Birds were out, and it got worse and worse and worse. Jones was awful. The offense was anemic. The team was terrible, and the Vikings whooped them. Danny, it is a bit of a gift to have them on the schedule this week. Not promising you they win. I'm not telling you they're going to beat them, but this is a chance to just look like a professional football outfit and to make it seem the optics coming out of this game need to be that the Bucs are just really good and week 1 was a fluke, because look at how they looked in week 2. It was different.
If you treat this football season like it's a normal football season, then of course it's ridiculous to say it's a must-win game, right? You and I would agree with that, right? That's obvious. It's not, because if this is a Super Bowl contender, even still, you'd have a lot of ground to make up and you'd be fine. And, if you're the Packers this week, a team that's really good, but they're not going to have Jordan Love in all likelihood. You don't have to win. It'd be nice if you did, right? Et cetera. Here's where I'm coming from on this. So I don't have the term must win, but I've got something, and I want you to see if you can help me quantify it. You promised us something. My job, as I see it, is to come in here and try to call balls and strikes. When I'm not talking about you, Grant, but the royal you, the team, when you set the standard, you tell me what I'm supposed to expect. And when you don't meet it, people get pissed. People get disappointed. That was a hallmark of Snyder. Now, in addition to all the impropriety and nonsense and bullcrap we all had to deal with, that was the football part, the overpromising, and then the rug pull time after time after time. The offseason champion, rug pull. The savior, the white knight is here, rug pull. It's the same. They wouldn't say rebuild. If they had, different conversation. But because we're going to arrive violently with our North and we're going to go find Commanders and we're going to play this way and you guys wait and see, we think we're going to be much better than we've been in the past. You can't go for 2. You can't lay a turd in week number 1 and not be competitive against a decent Tampa Bay team that we're now trying to make a Super Bowl contender.
But don't you agree? They can't go 0 for 2 in looking as bad as they did.
And this is my point.
Or showing up that way. But a win or a loss is largely irrelevant if they play a decent football game.
To a degree, but the Giants are horrendous. The Giants are picking top 5 again, probably, if I had to bet.
Probably, but in the same way that we can sit here and say we don't know a lot about Washington yet, and week 1 is the ultimate misleading week in the football season, we really don't know what the Giants are. I tend to agree with you. They looked abysmal, and they have been bad for years and years and years. But I guess my point is, whatever we think we know right now, a month from now is going to probably be wrong.
Totally fair, and we'll adjust accordingly. Now, if the Giants, if we save their season like we did when they won the Super Bowl years ago, when Liddell Betts got stopped 19 times inside the 3-yard line, and they were about to fire Tom Coughlin and then went on a Super Bowl run, which
Liddell Betts from
Iowa? Was that right?
You were right.
First school jumped in my head.
Yeah.
Where was I? Oh, yeah. But and they go on and have a nice year, and Daniel Jones is vindicated, and Brian Dable's vindicated, and Joe Shane is actually a genius. Okay, fine. I think people will adjust. But right now, they suck. They were awful in week 1. They were one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the NFL in week number 1. And everyone hates their guts up there who's supposed to like them. You lose here. You don't play well here. Then there's a lot of sameness. There's a lot of, you promised me something different, and it ain't different. You turned over all the personnel. You made all these decisions like you were the smartest guy in the room, and this is what we get. I could have had Rivera do that. You know?
So I don't mind the axioms and the platitudes in culture building. Arrive violently, the stuff you put on t-shirts, anybody, anytime, anywhere. You know how that's on like all the polos that all the
Sure.
coaches are wearing
Mhm.
and stuff. I'm cool with all that because I think that you got to act as if to an extent.
Mhm.
The mistake that I do think they've made is I don't think they did a good enough job frequently enough telling us how bad the roster was and that this is in fact a rebuild. Like using the word rebuild should not be a pejorative when you're taking over a 4-13 bad football team
Yeah.
that just picked second overall. So I'll agree with that. I think if you heard probably whatever you want to, like if you go back to all those pressers where they're not using rebuild and saying that they're recalibrating, and when they're not using rebuild and saying they're finding north, there are also answers where they're talking about it's going to take time. We need some patience, and so I think you heard some of that too. I personally, after watching their first game, think maybe they should have leaned a little more into the rebuild thing, though. Because, like you and so many others, especially when you drafted a quarterback at number 2 overall, I think there's this thought of, well, it's 30 plus new players.
Mhm.
It's a new quarterback. The owner has changed, the GM has changed, the coach is different, the quarterback is brand new at the most important position. Maybe this thing will look a lot different. And I don't think anybody needed them to beat the Bucks, but for them to have lost as bad as they did and to have just looked as unprepared is probably unfair, but ish, just what did they have going for themselves in that game? What was the plan on offense other than go make a play, Jaden? What do you have to hang your hat on defensively coming out of that game? You've already fired one of your key specialists because of how much of a debacle that part of the game was. You could not have had a worse first week. It was only 1 week. And maybe in the grand scheme of things, it won't mean a lot, but that's all we've had so far, and it went about as bad as it could have.
Yeah, and I'm not thinking of this from a football perspective. Win, lose, or draw, you'd like. I care about how Jaden Daniels plays. Honestly, like if they lose 30-10, did Daniels play okay? And the answer would probably not much if they lose 30-10. But I'm talking about from a fan engagement, from a business perspective, from a hey man, we're trying to reach out to you guys and show you how different this is. It's not going to feel different if they lose to the Giants for the ninth time in 13 games over the last handful of seasons, especially as bad as the Giants looked in week number 1. I guess that's kind of where I'm going.
I'm not saying there's a huge runway for this plane, but I think there is a path to a loss to the Giants and me feeling way better come Monday. A lot of it's going to have to do with their offense and Jaden Daniels. If Daniels comes out and throws for 277 and they look like an NFL passing offense
Mhm.
and wide receivers, or I don't know, I'm going to say something crazy, targeted,
Here we go.
then it's going to feel and look a lot different. And I'll come out of it going, yeah, they're 0-2. And yeah, they lost to a bad Giants team. And by the way, I now know that they're officially probably going to be bad, like really bad, like
Mhm.
5, 6 wins bad this year. And maybe the under, I was taking the over on 6.5 is not only in play, but extremely likely. But I can feel a lot better. Like the discouragement of that Bucks game, there's a stench that needs to be washed away. Talking to a lot of the people out at the golf course
Mhm.
at 1757 yesterday that you and I went to a person, one after another, they came up. And the point wasn't like they're out on the coach or the quarterback. I mean, it's a week. Everybody gets that.
Sure.
But I think the point was like, dude, that looked really
Yeah,
bad.
that was bad.
And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
it did. Like, I didn't expect that. Like, yeah, me either. And we didn't have much. Like, now what? Well, what else do we want to talk about?
Right.
I mean, it's early. We're giving you time. We're going to be patient. But even by that standard, it was a pretty horrific outing in all phases. So I just need a lot more from everybody,
Agreed.
from the staff to the sidelines to the players.